Many words have multiple different meanings. We do this a lot in English. Right? I love the Dodgers. I love lamb korma. I love my wife. Right? But what I mean by love changes, and it's easily distinguishable by the context. Now, from a biblical perspective, we ought to be able to distinguish between, I believe, at least 3 different types of worry. 2 that are explicitly used in the New Testament, and a 3rd that can be deduced from a biblical worldview. And each different type of worry should be addressed and ministered to in different ways. The New Testament word most commonly translated anxious or worry is the Greek word merimnao. At times, it's used negatively, referring to over-concern or anxiousness, as in some of the more familiar passages on anxiety in the New Testament. Like when Paul writes, "Do not be anxious about anything" in Philippians 4. Or when Jesus teaches, "Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious" in Matthew 6. Or when Peter instructs his listeners to cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you in 1 Peter 5. Now, we'll look at some of these passages in more depth in a bit. However, this exact same word, merimnao, is not exclusively used in a negative light in Scripture. Sometimes, instead of referring to over-concern or anxiousness, it's used positively in the sense of appropriate concern or genuine care. Like when Paul tells the Philippians, "For I have no one like Timothy who will be genuinely concerned," genuinely merimnao, for your welfare in Philippians 2. Or when he tells the Corinthians that there is the daily pressure on me of my anxiety for all the churches in 2 Corinthians 11. And then when Paul tells the Corinthians that God desires that the members may have the same merimnao, the same care, the same anxiety for one another in 1 Corinthians 12. So Paul both tells the Philippians that Timothy is appropriately merimnao for their welfare, and he also tells them that they should not be merimnao about anything. So what's the difference? Well, as always, whenever we study Scripture, or really when we communicate in any form for that matter, context matters, and context defines. There is an appropriate kind of God-centered merimnao, an appropriate kind of God-centered concern that we are to have for one another. Yet there's also an inappropriate kind of self-centered, consuming concern that we're warned against. The New Testament writers and Jesus himself used the word merimnao in 2 very different and clearly distinct ways. And it's from these 2 different uses of this word that we get the first 2 of our different types of worry.